Yeah, we'll do that. Good evening and welcome to the Millis Public Schools School Committee meeting of May 16th, 2023. I am Stephen Catalano, the chairperson. I'm going to start with the roll call vote. Ms. Gibbons, the secretary, is absent tonight. Ms. Briggs will be here in about a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. She's coaching softball. Mr. Conroy, the newest member, Shayna Canistrari, is here. Mr. Mullaney, the superintendent, is here, and so is Terry Wiggin, the director of finance and human resources. Before we begin, I want to announce that this meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on Mondays at 7 p.m. on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. All meeting videos are also posted to the Millis Public School website under School Committee. All videos are also available on YouTube. All school committee minutes and agendas can be found on the school committee page of the Millis Public School website. Persons wishing to speak during open session must sign in before the meeting starts. Comments are to not exceed 3 minutes in time. Individuals may not name students, staff, or parents. All topics for discussion must be limited to those items listed on the evening's agenda. And all comments must be directed to the chair. The committee may not respond to public comments. It shall be their decision to discuss issues at a later date, and all times on the agenda are approximate. Is there anyone signed in for open session? So we have some action items. The first one is to consideration to approve the April 25th, 2023 school committee meeting minutes. Mr. Conroy. Do I get a second? Okay, motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Actually, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. The consideration to approve the FY24 school calendar. Mr. Mullaney, would you like to highlight any significant issues or concerns or differences in the calendar?
Nothing really different from past years. 180 days for students, 185 days for staff, which includes 5 professional development days, 2 on, 1 on August 28th, the 29th and the 30th, and also a day over the summer where teachers come in and set up their office space, classrooms, etc. And then 2 other full-day professional development during the year, and then 5 early release days. The admin team has gone over the calendar. The Teachers Association has viewed it. And we would have the first day of school for kids would be August 30th, and with no snow, the last day of school would be June 12th, but I'm thinking we're probably going to have snow next year because we had no snow this year, and the kids are getting out the 14th, which is amazing.
Okay. Any questions about the calendar? I like the dates in the middle. I think that's helpful. Excellent.
All Susan.
Excellent, Susan. It's actually very, very helpful. I like the new format. If there are no questions, I would take a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Conroy.
A motion that we approve the 2023-2024 school calendar as presented.
Do I get a second? A motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. The next item, and we're going to put a hold on that, is the reorganization of the school committee. And that will occur. We're going to wait for Robin to show up for that. And then school committee meeting dates for June. I think we can give you June. Okay. So May, the next one is May the 20th. What's the last Tuesday in May? No, the one after. So the 30th. And then 2 weeks out would be the 13th and the 27th. So that'll get us to the end of the fiscal year. And before we get, did I actually ask if anyone was here for open session?
You did.
Okay. And before we get too farther ahead, I think it's important that this is the first meeting since town meeting. And I want to thank the town for their support of all of the warrant articles. There was a lot of discussion prior to town meeting. And although we had we lost some people and we lost some FTEs, I think the best case scenario was the end result. We don't want to lose anyone, but it could have been significantly worse. And I think we're in a good place. And I do appreciate everyone in town stepping up. There was literally minimal, maybe one or two comments that weren't even really dissension. So it was good. That being said, we have a lot of work ahead of us for next year. There will be an override, and there'll be a lot of work to be done to convince the town on raising their taxes. And I think we made a compelling argument for this year, but we still have more work to do. Tagging on to that, we heard very late last week that due to the diligence of Mr. Wiggin, the business manager, we did obtain, I want to say, close to $103,000 in special circuit breaker funding, where we've asked and we've tasked Mr. Wiggin with looking at the money. Initially, the money has to be spent in this fiscal year. We're asking him to look at any and all restrictions on the money, how it should be spent, how it can be spent, and then how that would impact our commitment to paying back stabilization. So we can't commit to anything yet other than we're going to do research, and hopefully by the next meeting we'll have more information on it. It's going to help us. It's not going to solve the problem, but $100,000 we will never turn that. We'll never turn any money down. So that was late last week. So Mr. Wiggin is working with his colleagues in the state to try to identify how do we spend it this year. That being said, there are no student reps here. Teacher reps. Ms. Copese. After this one. Yeah.
Whatever, but
Yep.
We'll be ready, don't worry. So, welcome, Shanna. It's nice to see you there. Okay, so from the CFB, we have a big old thank you to the Home and School Association for doing a week-long celebration of appreciation last week. So there were treats and a luncheon on Friday. They're getting ready for their school year-wide reward, which is going to be a cereal box domino rally. So it sounds kind of interesting. They're asking families to bring in full boxes of cereal. It sounds like they're going to set up a domino course,
Okay.
and then all of the boxes of cereal are going to be donated to the food bank afterwards.
That's a great idea.
So that sounds like a lot of fun. I kind of wish I could go. Ms. Carlson's class, as you may or may not realize, has been paired with Mr. Bigelow's class as pen pals all year long. And so they've gone over to watch some of their pen pals do their senior project presentations this week. So that is nice. We had poetry night on May 8th, where 24 students were invited to read their original pieces. And after doing their 3-class workshop with the poet in residence, Miss Julia Thacker. So it was a packed house, and everyone would like to thank the Home and School Association for helping fund this event. Senora Colcord's class made posters for Feria de Sevilla, the Seville Fair, which takes place in Spain every spring, and they are now reading The Number of the Stars. And for those of us who've had students come through immersion, I know that this is a high point of the year, and I know Wilson still talks about reading that book, so it clearly made a huge impression on her. And Senora Calazo's class had a video conference with a class in Spain. So our students asked questions in Spanish and received answers in English, and then the other class asked questions in English, and our students answered in Spanish.
That's very cool.
So that was really cool. In the middle school, the Kindness Club did their second trip to the Senior Center, and they did more games and drawings, and there was some karaoke at the end, which I wish I could have seen, because I think that would have been a hoot. They'd like to thank Nirvana and Muffin House for sponsoring the event. The 7th grade science class had a visitor in from the Charles River Watershed Association, where they talked about the history of the watershed, because of course we live in the watershed, and then they talked about the impacts of pollution and mitigation, and the students are able to apply what they've been learning around the water cycle to sort of this real-life application. And then in the 8th grade huddle, the volunteer awards were handed out this year, and so it was like a full house as we kind of culminated the year. The 8th graders are getting ready to come on down here shortly. The 8th graders also came down on Monday to meet their peer advisory leaders. So as our seniors migrated out and they had their last peer advisory 2 weeks ago, we brought the 8th graders down to meet their peer advisor leaders for next year. So that was fun. At the high school, we are gearing up for class elections, which will be during advisory on May 30th. And then in the last couple of weeks, working kind of backwards, of course, the prom was on Friday evening at the Coachman in Bellingham. And again, having a member of the group who went in my house, fun was had by all, it sounds like.
I heard that too.
Pictures were fabulous. Then on Tuesday night was the Pops concert, which had the interesting theme of sort of Baroque and madrigal. So that was lovely, and there were many a costumed folk there. Kayla Walsh-McCarter won the Best Costume Award as she dressed up in full face makeup as Queen Elizabeth. So props to her for that. I think one of my high points, though, was the converting of Wannabe by the Spice Girls into a madrigal song, which I didn't think I would ever put those two words in one sentence together. But props to Mr. Femino for making that work out. The seniors' last day was also Friday. They had Animal Adventures come in, and it was fun because we got to see Mr. Audicki hold a giant snake, and there was an alligator and owls and fun things like that. We had the NHS induction last Tuesday night. So 33 students were inducted in, and the speeches were lovely this year. And Mr. Jack Burns was the host of the event as the outgoing president of the National Honor Society. And the week before that, we had Terpsichore's spring dance recital. It was our 15th anniversary, so we said goodbye to some of our seniors. We're in the throes of MCAS right now, but we finished up AP exams. So that's kind of where we're at. And then, as promised, do you have a question?
One more
You're
announcement before
delaying
we
the
get to the
inevitable.
fun.
Delaying
Late
it.
breaking news.
What?
The boys' baseball team
Oh,
won today.
did they?
They certainly
That
did.
is so exciting.
7-3.
And who did they defeat?
No, 6-4. They beat
Okay.
Oxford.
Okay.
The number 2 team or 3 team in Division 5.
Wow.
Yes.
This is very
And
exciting.
And a young upstart,
Earlier
Jack
on.
Catalano,
Oh,
got a
I've never heard of
triple.
him.
He got a triple and scored 3 RBIs.
Good
so
for him.
now, just to be clear,
Okay.
the baseball record, they have now increased their wins by 100%. They've won 2 games this year.
Good for them.
We have several more games, so they potentially
They're on a streak now.
exponentially
Yeah.
increase.
We should graph this in class, and we can like.
It's,
No, let's
It's
not.
not gonna be a
Is
big
it a
graph.
sinusoidal curve?
why don't we just do the lungs
All
opposed
right.
to
So
the ground?
as I promised you last time, we're
Can
going
I
to
add one thing too, though?
You can add
before?
whatever you like.
We also have senior projects going on over at Town Hall, and we invite anyone who's available to stop in at the Roach Brothers Room at Town Hall between 8 and 2:30 tomorrow through Friday.
I think Friday's a shorter day, so check the schedule on that one.
Yeah.
Just in case you show up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they may be wrapped up.
I was able to go yesterday for a few, and the kids are doing a great job.
Excellent.
So I'm sorry. Continue.
Don't.
What do we got?
All right, so we're going to build a quick lung model tonight. So
Okay.
you've got your materials in front of you. So we do this in chemistry, and we also do it in anatomy and physiology, so it's kind of a revisit. In chemistry, we do it to learn Boyle's law and Charles' law, and a little bit of Avogadro. Actually, Boyle's and Avogadro, a little bit of Charles. And then in anatomy, obviously, they're doing it to understand how respiration works. It's a completely mechanical process. So what you have is your plastic cup. There is a hole in one end, and there's an opening on the ender, okay? So you've got
True.
yeah, pretty good. You've got a tiny little one-hole stopper. That's going to represent sort of the air hole from your mouth to your trachea. Hang on, don't get too excited there.
Okay.
You're going to take your tiny balloon, and you're going to put it on the tiny end of your stopper. Oh, look, yours is
It was
already
already
done.
done.
Look at
No,
that,
it
I
was
set you
done.
up for success.
I will take it off so we can.
All right, so the tiny little balloon actually represents the lung, and the stopper represents the
Wait,
esophagus.
hold on.
What?
I'm going to get an F
I
I'm not
need
going
a
to get an
partner.
F.
because of him.
It'll be fine,
Oh,
relax.
I have short little sausage
All right,
fingers.
here's the really hard part, which is why you need 2 hands. This balloon represents the diaphragm. okay, which is at the bottom of your chest cavity, so it helps create that sealed system. You need to, and this is where the two hands come in, you need to stretch it across the bottom of your cup.
Okay, so you hold the cup.
Is your stopper
Okay.
still in? Okay, good.
All right, and
How
then
did we
we
do?
put this-
How did that come out, man?
We know he was fixing it.
It's,
Yes, go
it's
ahead.
got to be a seal. Your lungs should be inside your chest cavity, boys. I'm pretty sure Mr. Catalano the
Do you
younger.
mock kids in your class too? Because I'm not sure that's appropriate.
No. I would say, does it seem reasonable that the lung would be outside of the chest cavity?
I'm a criminal justice major, okay?
It's all good.
I know mass general laws, I don't know Charles law.
Okay. Well, Boyle's law says as volume increases, pressure decreases. And Avogadro said as you increase the amount of matter, volume increases. Okay, so now what you got to do,
Spike.
this is your sealed chest cavity. You ready? Look at your little balloon. It's all deflated inside, correct?
Yes.
Take the diaphragm and gently pull it down, and you will watch your balloon inflate if your system is sealed. And when you push it up, your lung will deflate. And you're going to make yourself breathe.
So the diaphragm causes us to
Yeah,
breathe.
absolutely. The diaphragm completely controls inhalation and exhalation, which is triggered by the parasympathetic nervous system. So there you go.
This is excellent.
So there you have
What
it.
are we doing on the next meeting?
On May 30th?
I want
What
to
would
blow
you like?
something up. I want you to
You
bring-
wanna blow something-
We'll
for-
bring the fire department in, we'll put tarps down, I want to blow something up.
Okay, well, maybe we could do that in my room?
Can we do that? Maybe that should be the last meeting of the year. Oh, you
When
don't
is
come to
my
the
last meeting of the year?
Yeah,
When do you
well,
want me to
actually,
be done?
Let's blow something up on May 30th.
On May 30th? Okay. Blow something up really just means a rapid expansion of gases, so it may not be as exciting as you think it's going to be.
I want the fire alarms to go off.
Oh, no. I have worked many years to not have any fire alarms go off on my watch.
All
All
right.
right, did you have fun with your lung model?
Yes!
I can't believe you forgot we were doing this tonight. I'm a little disappointed.
I forget
A lot going
I
on.
forget a lot. I forget a
I
lot.
mean, you know, there's like a giant meeting in the middle.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Okay, so I would like to take, I'd like to move something up. I'd like the introduction of the new middle school principal. Ms. Hurley, before you come up, have you decided you still want to be here? You don't have to come to these meetings often. You only have to come 2 or 3 times a year. 2 more meetings. And then I'm going to come and just sit. Ellen and I will hang out.
Love it.
You don't want that.
No, I don't.
I don't blame you. Do you want to come up?
Has she signed the contract yet?
I don't, yes.
We have it signed.
You can't leave now. You're here.
Okay.
And I'd like to introduce Anna Hurley as the new middle school principal, and she'll be joining us on July 1st. And it's kind of appropriate. Anna was a former science teacher, so she got to see you doing science, Steve.
We all did it, not just me.
I didn't get that well. Anna is currently the assistant principal at Wellesley Middle School, and so I'd like to introduce you to our council and to folks at home, many of whom have already seen you with the parent forum, virtual parent forum we did. So welcome, Anna.
Welcome to Millis.
Thank you. Very excited to join the community. I think Ms. Popes mentioned a lot of the reasons why I'm excited to be here in Millis, the connection between the older kids and the younger kids, and the wide variety of activities, the immersion program. There's so many great things happening here in Millis. I'm really excited to be a part of this community. And honestly, going through the search timeline at the same time you guys were going through all of the budgeting challenges, I did get to watch a lot of these meetings and town meetings and select board meetings, and the way everybody was so respectful and collaborative and digging into really coming together for the kids, and then the outstanding result, I just think speaks volumes to exactly why I want to be in Millis, and I'm thrilled to be here. So
Well, we're happy to have you, and the town did come together, and you heard what I said earlier, that we have to do work. Being a very small town is both good and bad, right? And so when it's good, it's great, and when it's bad, it's bad. And you have your because you have your challenges with the middle school, but we're happy to have you here, and we've heard nothing but good things, so welcome aboard, and we look forward to having you here permanently on July 1st.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We good?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And my favorite presentation of the year. Ms. Dunn, would you like to come up to give the class of 22 report? You're gonna have to. This is the one time we're gonna have to turn.
Turn on Wi-Fi. Sorry, just have to switch Wi-Fi's.
That's fine. Take your time.
I have it pulled up, but
All right. Ms. Copese, could you ever damage your diaphragm? Is the diaphragm like a,
You can get a herniated diaphragm, so that's where you get like so your esophagus runs through your diaphragm and it's sealed because you need your chest cavity to not have any air going in and out of it independently. Otherwise, you have like a sucking chest wound.
Okay.
But you can herniate your diaphragm, which is basically when you get kind of a tear in it, like for example, your intestines or your stomach can start pushing up into your chest cavity.
so what do you do about that?
You have to have a surgical repair.
You don't stop breathing.
It can impact your ability to breathe. I mean, it does change the dynamic in your chest cavity. Because it's like a delicate balance. If you have a resting tidal volume in your lungs, it's like when you get the air knocked out of you, you've
Yes.
disrupted that resting tidal volume. So like if you take away space in your chest cavity,
Should we bring in a skeleton opposed to blowing something up at the next meeting?
I know. Just,
Thank you for filling the time, Ms. Copese. Thank you.
okay, so hi, I'm Riley Dunn. I'm one of the 2 school counselors here at Millis High School. And I'm here tonight to present a profile of testing and placement for the class of 2022. So this is the class that graduated last year in the spring of 2022. Before I dive in about that class, I always like to give a quick update on some of the things that we have going on here at the high school, some of the things that we're doing to support the kids that we have here at the high school. So at this point this year, we've completed 2 rounds of 9th grade seminars, and we'll do another round in early June. And we've also completed 10th and 11th grade seminars. And just a quick breakdown of what those look like. Freshman year, we're supporting kids with the transition to high school, tools for high school study skills, motivation, things like that, creating a 4-year plan, and really helping them to be able to visualize and make plans to set themselves up for their 4 years. Sophomore year, our seminars are really focused on career exploration, helping them understand their personalities and all the different things that people should think about before choosing a career. And also, of course, thinking about, what training and education will they need to get themselves towards those careers. So just kind of getting the wheels turning with those conversations. And then, of course, junior year, we jump in with the college process in our seminars, and we do seminars with the seniors as well to help them through the college process. Some other things going on this spring were that we had the junior parent night, where we had a panel of college representatives from UMass Amherst, Boston College, Mass Bay, Quinnipiac, and Suffolk University, which was great. We brought all of our juniors over to a college mini fair at Medway High School that was only open to Medway High School and Millis High School students. So it's really a cool opportunity for our students to be able to learn about 65 different colleges, all in one place, in one space. And because it's just Medway High School students and Millis High School students, they actually have an opportunity to really make an impression. And we like hearing from the college counselors that they really enjoyed meeting Millis kids, because oftentimes the reps that come to those events are the reps that end up reading applications for Millis High School students applying to those schools. So definitely a great opportunity for our kids. We had our 8th to 9th grade parent step-up night April 4th, so getting that next group ready to enter the high school. We've done the Signs of Suicide program with all 9th graders in health classes at this point. And we also have done a suicide prevention program with the Samaritans for 10th and 11th graders. We are in our second year of working with the JED Foundation, and JED Foundation has helped us to look at all the things that we do to support our students' mental health and figure out. What's been nice is they recognize that it's an area of strength for us in a lot of ways, and that we do a lot of things to help students' mental health, and not just us, the community. This is clearly something that is a priority. So just something that in general this community does seem to prioritize and do things well, but they're also helping us to figure out what we can do better. So first year was really identifying, what things we need to work on, and this second year has been putting some of those things into place, and we've got a great big team of people from the parents from the community, students from our school, tons of teachers, counselors. Mr. Mulaney's on the committee, and everybody's been working really hard all year to make some really great things happen. So we'll be working with them again next year to continue improving on some of these things. And at this point, we have met individually with all students in the high school to make their schedules for next year. So everybody is all set there. Local scholarship applications have been completed by the seniors. They are out the door now. They had their last day on Friday, and they're doing their senior projects this week. So excited for them to graduate, and looking forward to putting this information for their class together as well. But to refocus back on the class of 2022, who graduated last year, just a quick kind of profile of this class, if you can kind of remember who they were and what they went through during their 4 years. So there were 72 graduates in the class of 2022. So it was a small class. They didn't have a typical 4 years thanks to that COVID-19 pandemic, which hit in March of their sophomore year. So if you can imagine, their sophomore year was cut short, and then their junior year was very, it was hybrid. There were some kids who were at home the whole time, or most of the time. They were in masks. Activities were very limited. Field trips were limited. There were no college tours. There were no college fairs. So there was a lot that was different about their junior years and their college search experience. One of those things was also that SATs and ACTs were harder to access. By the time it got to spring of their junior year, places were starting to open up, but because of social distancing, the capacity was much lower in these test centers. Plus, some people didn't feel safe going. But so it was very hard to get a spot taking the SATs and ACTs. So because of that, the College Board allowed schools to offer an in-school, during-school SAT to help schools to provide access to students. So we did that in, I believe, it was either February or March of their junior year. So that we did end up having a good portion of our students take the SATs. With that said, the majority of colleges, definitely for this class, were completely test optional. So there was a little bit of pressure off of the SATs, which was nice. And the AP exam experience did kind of go back to normal for this class. The previous class took AP exams online, but the AP exams for this class were relatively normal. With all of that said, with all of the things that this class went through, they were accepted to some really incredible schools. You can imagine that the college is being test optional, meaning that students do not need to submit their SATs or ACT scores as a part of their application. Changes the landscape of the college application process. It made for just a more unpredictable experience. We had students who were accepted to schools that we maybe wouldn't expect that to happen during a typical year where test scores were required. And then we had the exact opposite happen, where we had students who, if everybody were required to submit test scores, we would have felt probably more that those students were likely to get in, and they didn't end up getting in. So it was just a mix. It went in both directions. With that said, I think, obviously the kids do an awesome job with their parents and with their families, and we all work together to come up with a list that's balanced and gives them a ton of great options. So I think most of the kids were psyched to get into some of these incredible schools. and a summary of this class, we had 92% of them go on to four-year colleges. That is the highest percent in the past 5 years, and maybe it's probably the highest percent in a while. 98% plan to continue formal education, so whether it was a 2-year college or a 4-year college. So again, that's a high percentage for Millis, and it turns out that there were just 2 students who didn't plan to go on to college or a 2-year college, and those 2 students were both entering the workforce. Just kind of takes some more time to figure their plans out. So yeah. So 68% of the class of 2022 did choose to attend an institution in New England, kind of on par with previous years, where 65% for the previous class. They were in 17 different states, some new ones for us, Mississippi, Idaho, and we had a student enroll in an institution in the Czech Republic. But kind of the general spread is sort of typical for Millis kids. We have a good chunk every year that stick around New England, and then we always have a bunch that are venturing off to farther schools in different places. And just to note that for some of the things up here, typically I would only compare this class with last year's class to kind of give you some perspective, but because last year's class, or the class of 2021, had such a unique experience, and their numbers were so warped by the pandemic, in some of these slides I'm including the class of 2021 and the class of 2020, which had a more typical SAT experience. So again, we were able to offer the SAT in school to our students because of the pandemic, which resulted in 83% of our students taking the SAT. Only 18% of the class of 2021 took the SAT because they were really in the throes of the pandemic, did not have access. But the previous year, the class of 2020, who had kind of typical access, was at 91%, which is sort of on trend for typical for Millis High School students. So 83 is closer to that normal number. To give you also perspective, 55% of Massachusetts high school graduates of class of 2022 took the SAT, and 41% of the nation's high school graduates took the SAT. Our mean score was 1132, which again was a decrease from the class of 2021, but the class of 2021's SAT scores were much higher because it was a small percentage of students that accessed that test in the class of 2021. So you can imagine if it's really, really hard to take the SAT and colleges aren't requiring it, the only students who are going to make the effort to go do that are the ones who are confident they're going to do well on it. So it makes sense that the class of 2021, their averages are much higher. But you can see that 1132 is very comparable to 1131 for the class of 2020, which was, again, a typical year for taking the SATs. And we were above the Massachusetts mean and above the national mean. And just a breakdown of the different sections. Our mean score was a 561, which compared to 2021 was lower, and also a bit lower than the class of 2020. And we were below the Massachusetts mean, but above the national mean. And for math, our mean score was 571, which was a decrease from 2021, but an increase from the class of 2020. We were above the Massachusetts mean and the national mean for that, for the math scores. And here you can just see by year, you can see again that 2021, our scores were much higher. This is the class of 2022, and it's really, kind of on par with what our students were generally doing before the pandemic as well. A little bit lower for evidence-based reading and writing, and a little bit higher for math. And Massachusetts has this tool of the DART comparison, where they kind of group us with 11 other schools that are similar to us in things like demographics and size of school and things like that. And compared to those schools, we had the 7th highest out of the 11 SAT score, the 7th highest evidence-based reading and writing score, the 5th highest math score. And in terms of the number of test takers, we had the 5th smallest group. The highest number of test takers was Ipswich at 107. So again, this is sort of just the layout of the DART schools, and this is the mean reading, writing, and math scores combined. So we are in seventh here. We're pretty comparable to the few schools that we're kind of trailing behind. And again, it's hard to know, what percentage of their students took the SATs, whether they did an SAT in school. So with these COVID years, it's hard to infer too much. That's kind of where we stood with that group. For the ACT, before the pandemic, we had about 24% of the class taking the ACT, which is another college entrance exam that colleges will accept, just like the SAT. Only 3% of the class last year took the ACT, and that stayed the same for the class of 2022. So it'll be interesting to see if those numbers ever go back up to that 24%. But for now, it seems like our students are focusing their energy on the SAT rather than the ACT. I'm not providing the information on the 2 students, I think it was, that actually took the ACT, just because it's too small of a pool. For our AP course enrollment for the class of 2022, we had 13 different AP exams taken during the 22 school year. 76% of the senior class participated in an AP program by taking at least one AP. So I think that's a pretty high number and something that we're proud of, that 3/4 of our students are taking these college level classes. So we definitely have high participation, and as you'll see, high success in those classes as well. 9 of the 11 exams taken as a result of classes actually taught by Millis High School teachers, at least 75% scored a 3 or better. 6 of those 11 exams saw 80% of test takers scoring a 3 or better, and 4 exams had 90% scoring a 3 or better. The highest percentages of students at a 3 or better were calculus, AB, which 100% of the students scored a 3 or better, as well as studio art. Spanish language had 24 out of the 25 students scored a 3 or better, and English laying, 18 of the 20 students. And that number, 76% of all exams earned a 3 or higher, puts us in the top 20 in the state of Massachusetts for percentage of students earning a 3 or higher on the exams that are taken. So 18% of exams scored a 5, which is the highest possible score. And if anybody's unfamiliar with AP exams, students can use, if they score a 3 or higher, that's sort of considered passing, and they can potentially earn college level credit for those classes that they took in high school if they score a 3 or higher on those exams, which is why we focus on those numbers. Again, just a comparison kind of previous years and how our students have done. The purple is 3 or higher, the white is 4 or higher, and the gray is 5, the highest score possible. So similar to previous years.
And Brad,
Yes.
just dotting out as I'm seeing. So what you're showing for AP exams and results is all of the exams that were taken last year,
Yes.
not all the exams taken by the class of 2022.
Correct.
We
Yeah.
have kids,
Yeah.
so when we move back, we had 116 kids and 185 again. We have multiple kids taking multiple APs for 2 years at least. generally.
Yes.
A
Yeah.
lot of time.
Mhm.
So they're repeating this level of success for the junior year and senior year.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and we have one AP class that's open to sophomores, AP Human Geography. And there is some recognition for, so here's just a quick breakdown of the trends for participation rates. So again, that's 116 students in 2022 taking 185 exams. So yes, some students are taking multiple exams. And this is during that school year, 21-22. So yeah, again, the 9 of 11 exams from classes physically taught at Millis High School had mean grades of 3 or above. Students can also take AP classes online through VHS or tech. Yeah. So those are the 8 of the 11 exams taken that were a culmination of classes physically taught at Millis High School. And we were higher than the Massachusetts means and the global means for 8 out of those 11 classes. So the black you can see are Millis scores compared to Massachusetts scores compared to global scores are the white. So yeah. And this distinction is to recognize those students who have taken multiple exams over their years and done well on them. I'm sorry, I forgot my notes about the exact definition of these different scholars, but the 26% of the overall AP exam group were named AP scholars, which is a recognition of having taken multiple and done well on them. 7 of them earned an AP scholar with distinction. 3 members of the senior class earned AP scholar with honor, and 5 seniors awarded AP scholar award status. Okay, and again, comparing us to that group of schools that we are similar to, Millis students recorded the 6th highest percentage of exams scoring 3 or above at 76.1%. And we trailed just Ipswich, Maynard, Tingsboro, Littleton, and Lunenburg. And again, just to show you, we are, kind of just behind these schools that have slightly higher percentages than us. So kind of in line with them. And just a breakdown of Spanish immersion students for the class of 2022. There were 15 of them. Their overall GPA average was a 4.02, and that was higher than the class average of 3.73. 100% of the Spanish immersion students indicated 4-year college compared to 92% of the entire class. 83% of the Spanish immersion class took SAT and outscored the overall class average in evidence-based reading and writing and math. And the overall mean SAT score for the Spanish immersion class was 76 points higher than the overall class mean. And all 15 Spanish immersion students that took the AP Spanish language exam scored a 3 or above, which is a good thing after all those years of Spanish. We would hope so. So yeah, just some summary observation. Our students definitely continue to move on to higher education in large numbers. We've got students getting into some really incredible schools, really competitive schools. 85% of our students in the class of 2022, said that they were admitted to one of their 3 top choice schools. 57% said financial aid was a factor in deciding where they ended up going. And on a survey asking their overall satisfaction with their high school plan, this class said they gave it a 4 out of 5 on average. So yeah, while this class kind of brought us more closer to a normal year in terms of SAT data, ACT participation remained really low, so it'll be interesting to see if that bounces back at all. It'll also just kind of be interesting to see how our students choose to participate in the SATs moving forward, given that because of the pandemic, many schools went test optional, but almost all of them have remained test optional. So students, again, we encourage them to take the SATs, to take them seriously, to do as well as they can, but it does take a bit of the pressure off and allows them to apply to a good number of schools without the SATs. So it'll just be kind of interesting to see over the next few years how that kind of shapes the different classes and their college decisions and their SAT decisions. And yeah, just in general, we thank you guys for everything that you do for our schools, and definitely feel very supported as a counseling staff by everybody in the community, but especially the school committee. So yeah.
Thank you for this, and I do like this presentation. A couple observations. We are a very small district, and there's a lot of great things going on in this district, and you can see where the kids are going, and they're supported, and I think that's great. And I'm not being negative, but I'm also concerned that as we proceed into the next year, because we're so small, you pull one string, and the next thing you know, another string goes, and we have kids looking to go out of district, but you don't have to go out of district to get a high-quality education and go to a high-quality school. If you choose, if school is where you want to go, I think where they're going and how they're supported is clearly demonstrated in the data, and I suspect the class of 23 will have similar data. And I think it's important, and I think your office is small, and you guys do a tremendous amount of work. And so as a parent, I thank you for that. And as a school committee member, I think what you guys do is supporting our kids from transitioning from middle school to high school and advisory and supporting them with mental health and academic support, I think is really, really important. And as things start to shrink or potentially shrink, we can't lose sight of, we don't want to lose the positive and the good things going. I'm being positive, but I hope you're not coming across as negative. I don't want to see this crumble, and I don't think it is going to crumble, but I think it could become more difficult. But thank you for all that you guys do.
Yeah.
Mike.
With the test optional, are you seeing more kids apply to more schools?
So with this class, it was right on par. The average was right on par with the previous classes. So it's like some kids are and some kids aren't, and it's kind of all coming out in the wash. I haven't looked at the numbers for this current graduating class, but it felt similar. On average, Millis kids apply to 6 to 8. So that means we've got some kids that are applying to just 2 or 3, and we've got kids that I'd say, again, most of them do fall right in that 6. We have the occasional kid who applies to 12 to 15, but most of them really are in the 6 to 10 range.
Just because I see, like, in news articles and things, the number of applications at schools is growing significantly year over year.
Right. Yeah.
And you just wonder if some of that is, now that it's test optional, if more kids are just taking shots at anything that normally they'd look in the book and say, my score's not going to get there, and not doing it. And they're taking, because acceptance rates are falling.
Yeah, it's crazy. That definitely is happening. But yes, surprisingly for our kids, for whatever reason, it seems to be still, when we're looking at the averages, it's still averaging at like 7 or 8, between 6 and 8 applications per student. But that is definitely happening. And again, it just makes it all totally unpredictable in terms of whether our kids are, getting into schools.
Good. So for the kids who don't go to school, because school is not for everyone, right? There's no, if someone wants to enter the workforce, highly skilled labor they're desperate for highly skilled labor. Mm-hmm. And I know the numbers are small. Do you think you have the capacity and the ability to support those kids as well? Or are there partnerships that we could be working with other agencies or other that kind of deal with kids who maybe not on the college track for now?
There are partnerships. There are things like available in the state, like Mass Rehab has things that are available to students that are free for all students. We also have had a 21st century career coordinator to help support us. I mean, it's like a small stipend position. It's not huge, but she's done a lot with a little and has done an incredible job of connecting students to different opportunities. And yes, we also have time and work with those kids as well, and we don't only focus on the college.
No,
So
I understand that.
Oh yeah. So whatever their plan is, we help them with that, and I feel like we do. Again, it's really nice to have that career coordinator position because she's definitely an extra support and she's definitely a good help. But I think we do a pretty good job of supporting those kids as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Mr. Mulaney.
Kind of along the same lines, do you think we'll see more kids taking that gap year in the future, given the costs of you know, a college education and spending tens of thousands of dollars to kind of see what your direction is going to be?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I feel like we're already starting to see it with this graduating class too. And I also think that a piece of it for some of these groups that were hit by the pandemic during high school, and honestly, it depends even on where they were in high school, what point in high school they were when it hit. Kids, I think, are just feeling like they're not quite ready yet, and they just need some more time to figure it out, whether it's because they don't want to spend the money without really knowing what their plan is, or just feeling like they just need a little bit more time, because in some ways they sort of feel like they missed out on all these learning opportunities. When you think of that year and a half where even though we were back in school, there weren't fairs, there weren't internships, there weren't all these programs, even Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, like these things weren't, the Zoom experience was not the same experience. So they were not building these skills and getting these experiences that I think help them to feel ready for that next step. So just even, we're seeing more kids who just want to take a pause, get some more experiences before they can figure it out and make a decision on where they want to go. Which I
I'd
think
kill
is
for a
smart.
gap year. Can I take is there an age limit on when you can take your gap year? Are we all good? Robin, I know you just came in.
I just came in.
Okay, that's
I'm
fine.
gonna think about it and email you.
Please CC the whole committee.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you need anything from us, or you good?
No, you guys are awesome. Thank you. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn.
Thank you.
So Ms. Briggs is here now in
Hi, I'm
attendance.
sorry I'm late.
Nope, that's quite all right. You were giving back to the community. Did you win?
We lost by 2. It was a tight game.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay.
The Millis boys baseball team won today. They've now
Won.
won 2 games
Oh,
this
good.
season.
This is our second loss, so it was pretty devastating.
But this is not a sports news show. This
Not a
is
sports
This is a school committee.
Okay.
But their record's better than
It's not always just about the wins.
That's
Sometimes,
Right.
Sometimes it is when
Sometimes
you
it's
get
about-
beat every
it's just
time.
about the power ranking. It's not about the wins, just the
Oh,
power
they're
ranking.
definitely going to the playoffs this year. Oh my God. So there is an action item.
Oh, did you skip over it?
We certainly did.
Okay.
The action item is the school committee reorganization. And I will take the liberty,
Somebody seemed really excited.
as the
about this.
chair, to nominate Mr. Conroy as the next chair of the school committee.
Second. I second that.
Yes. Ms. Briggs second. Is there any discussion? Did anyone not want to be the chair of the school committee?
I think Mark will be a great chair.
Oh, actually, should we have done the secretary? No, that's fine. Oh, a motion's been moved for Mr. Conroy to take over as the school committee chair, and it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes. You are now the chair. The power is yours. Can I just leave? Can I take my...
Take your phone and your water.
Yeah, give me my phone in case work calls. Oh, now
Care if
this-
Eileen calls, just work.
That's just work. Emergency calls, the only one I'm taking.
Taller, Mom. I'm just saying. Listen,
This is recorded. There's going to be at least 2 people watching this, and that was caught on tape. Dave, I need a highlight reel of that, please. All of the insults. The next one is for the secretary.
Yes, it is. All right. I will take a motion for the secretary for the next year,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion to nominate Miss Briggs as the secretary for the committee in the next year.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I asked you. You said yes.
I'll do it. I'll
Okay,
take
gotcha.
My
Robin,
dad's all organized.
listen, if in Robin's first year, this is why we have the Google.
Yes.
That's true.
Because of me.
The Google. I have paper, but
I know.
But you know what the Google is now.
Can I sign these in Flair? Is there a restriction? Okay. I know what the Google is.
You do. All right. Moving down. to chair report. Actually, why don't we skip that? We'll do the superintendent report first because there's one thing left.
Okay.
Elaine, if you want to do the enrollment.
Sure, I can do enrollment. And I too would like to thank the community for their support at town meeting to help us deal with our budget concerns. And thank you to the committee and FinCom and the select board for all their efforts to come up with a solution to that issue for next year. The enrollment, April brought us 5 new students to the district. We had 3 new students enroll in Clyde Brown and 2 in the middle school. So Clyde Brown is at 623 students now. The middle school is at 269. High school stayed the same at 315. Ties stayed the same at 7. And out-of-district numbers stayed the same as well at 22. Total in-district is 1,214 students.
All right, thank you very much. The only thing left on the agenda is chair report, the MSBA project update. Steve, is there any update?
The next meeting is June 7th. The state approved our requests for proposals for firms to do the feasibility, owner's project manual as part of the feasibility study. So we're going to have a discussion on the 7th, and I believe there's all sorts of dates lined up and ready, tours, and so we're ready to go.
Last thing on the agenda before we go to executive session is FY24 budget update. Mr. Wiggins. And yes, while Terry's coming up, I'll just add to what Steve and Bob have said about the support for fiscal 24 and also I think this year was by far the year where the tri-board and having those regular and early were extremely important and helpful. And you know, I think we've done it in other years where things were a little bit more straightforward and wasn't a lot going on, but I think that the time spent by everybody on those 3 groups was very important and very beneficial for the town as a whole.
I think the system worked.
Yeah.
I think there was discussions, although there was some rumblings at the end that we hid this. No, this was not hidden. This was discussed from October on, and so I think the system and the support of the 3 committees was very helpful. And once again, there's more work to be done, but at least we have now established where it's organized and formal communication, where we can talk about these things and be proactive.
Okay. You got what I affectionately call the recast budget in your packet, and I'll start by saying I'm not expecting any action tonight very deliberately. That's why it's placed where it is. You typically do vote on this, so hopefully at your next meeting, you'll be prepared to ask any additional questions you might have and maybe take a vote on it just to make it formal. I don't know that we truly ever have required it, but it is something the committee has traditionally done. I would go to the last page to start with, because that's where the bottom line numbers are. And so basically you can see that the totals of the budget are $20,234,723. And then you can see how I get there through the town meeting action. So the first thing that happens is we have a 6% budget increase from FY23, which brings us to $19,244,252. We then add marijuana impact funds of $51,774. That brings us to $19,296,026. And I want to stop there for a second. There will be additional, well, we believe there will be additional marijuana impact funds in the fall. But it's just a nuance of how free cash and the marijuana impact funds work. Then there is free cash of $538,697, which was appropriated by warrant article. That brings us to $19,834,723. And then there was 400,000, again, I would echo what everyone else has said in all of these votes, gratefully by the community, which brings us to $20,234,723. So we are in balance with the numbers that have been voted by the community, and the town officials and I are in agreement with the bottom line number.
Mr. Wigan,
Yes.
you may not have this at the ready, so don't worry about it. It's not a trick question, but what percentage on the recast budget of our budget is personnel?
Yeah, it's still going to be around 84, 85%. That's always where it is.
And then of that extra 15%, what percentage of that is, I mean, for the lack of a better term, say hard costs, like tuitions and things that we have to pay?
Probably, probably a good deal of the rest. I don't have that number specifically, but you figure that you've got, I think around $2,600,000 just in tuitions. You've got certain required support costs. Those are relatively minimal, but nonetheless there.
Therein lies the problem, we don't have a
Yeah.
lot of discretionary.
We don't really have a lot of discretionary funds, which is why when we were looking for cuts, you know, there were some, you know, things in professional development stipends that we decided we could cut. There was, you know, knocking back the 2% increase again for all the supply lines. There was a couple of other additional adjustments in some supply lines we felt we could make, like electricity, because the Clyde Brown Solar Project has gone very well. And so, again, this is just so the public understands, this is the first year we've had a year where we could see what the solar project was going to do, so it's the reason we could give that kind of assessment. But by and large, there just isn't a lot of places to go to, other than staffing, which is why, again, we're very pleased with what the town did, but it still was 7 FTEs that, you know, in some form or fashion are not with us.
Thank you.
Terry, is there, as we look at, and again, kind of as we play things out over the summer through the fall, you know, in terms of state funding and that, is there a mechanism for which we can, and, you know, both the free cash and the stabilization are to be used for specific purposes, but is there a way to basically tap into stabilization last? So defer it, you know, going into that, you know, again, depending on how tuitions have to be paid, et cetera, but if we could basically expend the operating budget, expend free cash first, so that in the event we get to a spot next year, or we're in the second half of next year, and then we do get something from the state, then it's...
I think I would say it differently, but I think it would get to your point. Because the free cash and the stabilization essentially all go to tuition lines,
Yep.
then essentially we would track it in that way. And so if, for example, we got some relief in the tuition lines outside of the normal circuit breaker, which is possible that may happen, then yes, we could track that separately.
Because it just, if we can
Yeah.
hold out on.
Understood, I understand.
Instead of, you know, it would be easier to not spend it than to do the, you know,
Correct.
put it back,
Understood.
if it's possible.
So you're saying spend everything down until we get to the last 400,000,
Right.
and then
Right.
And-
tap into that.
Right.
And the
Right.
only caveat I would give to that is that sometimes when you get to those additional things that are done by the legislature, they will put strings on it. However, I would also say that if that's the case, I usually can figure out a way to play a shell game. He never likes it when I say that.
He was having a good night until then, Terry.
Till I said that.
You're talking in quote-unquote shall.
All right. I would say that I can spend the money legally, but there are other areas of the budget that then are freed up
From where we were originally going to spend
from
it
where we were originally going to spend them.
Yes.
And that, will have the same effect, I think, that you're looking for.
Perfect. Excellent.
We'll call the IG
All
on
right.
you on July 1st, not on June 30th.
The,
July 1st.
the IG loves me.
All right, anybody else have any other questions on this? All right, yeah, so we can take a vote on this at the next meeting.
Yeah,
Anything?
there's no requirement you take a vote tonight.
Okay.
And I would actually think holding off until we actually have the more description on what we're gonna do with that.
130.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yep.
That's fine. We can, I'll easily have
I
that
think
back
it's
for
pretty
you.
straightforward, but I think
Yeah,
you're just digging in a little more.
that's fine.
helpful.
Not a problem.
All right. All right, we have no correspondence. Any announcements, old or new business? Nope. All right, then I'll take a motion to go to executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion to go into executive session, not to return to open session. The reason for executive session, the Millis School Committee will enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public employee, staff member, or individual, and also to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel.
Second,
So moved and seconded. This takes a roll call vote. Robin?
yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Shayna? Yes. Not be coming back into open session, so we will see everybody in 2 weeks. Okay. Thank you all.